So, if you're an educator, you've definitely heard the buzz about the National Education Policy, or NEP. It's being talked about as this massive, game changing shift in Indian education. But what does it really mean for you in your classroom with your students? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to break it all down into a simple, actionable guide.
Let's just start with this one question because honestly, it gets right to the very heart of the NEP. The whole policy is trying to flip the script on what education is even for. It's about moving away from a system that just rewards memorizing facts to one that actually builds real curiosity and understanding. Hang on to that thought because it's the engine behind every single change we're about to talk about.
Yeah, this slide pretty much sums it all up, right? We all grew up with a system on the left, the 10+2 structure, the endless rote learning, the pressure of those big exams. The NEP wants to move us to the column on the right, a future built on critical thinking, real choices, and a much more complete picture of how a student is doing. All right, so let's dig in and see what this new future is all about, piece by piece. Okay, first up, the big one, the one you see everywhere, this new structure. And I know it just looks like a string of numbers, but it's actually way more intuitive. It's designed to line up perfectly with how a child naturally grows and develops, from the time they're a toddler all the way through their teenage years. And what's so smart about this is how it follows a kid's journey. It all starts with the foundational stage, which is all about learning through play. Then you get to the preparatory stage, which kind of eases them into more structured learning. The middle stage is where they start meeting different subject teachers and, this is key, get their first real look at vocational skills. And finally, the secondary stage just opens everything up, letting them explore different subjects and get ready for what's next. Okay, so for all you teachers in the higher grades, this is a huge one for you. The silos are coming down. That rigid, old-school separation of science, commerce, and arts, it's on its way out. What that means is your students are going to have this incredible freedom to actually design their own path based on what they're truly interested in.
And this isn't just some abstract idea. I mean, look at this quote. It's straight from the policy. The whole point is to create a system where a kid who loves physics can also explore their talent for fashion design. It's all about building well-rounded people, not just specialists stuck in a box.
But listen, all this amazing stuff, the flexibility, the creativity, it's all built on sand if you don't have a solid foundation. And that's why the NEP has this massive focus on the early years, on what it calls the bedrock of all future learning.
And they are not messing around with this. The policy calls it an urgent national mission. This isn't some side project. They're calling it the #1 priority, period. Because all the research shows, if a child falls behind at this early stage, it's almost impossible for them to catch up later. So what is this mission? It's all about something called FLN, Foundational Literacy and Numeracy. Now, that might sound super basic, but it's absolutely profound. It's about making sure every single child can read and understand, can write clearly, and can handle basic math with confidence. And they've put a number on it, a deadline, grade 3. The national goal is for every single child to have these foundational skills locked in by the time they finish grade 3. And let me be clear, this isn't just a nice-to-have goal. It's the main benchmark for success in the early years. Okay, so once kids have that solid foundation and they move into the middle stage, this is where things get really interesting. The NEP introduces a pretty radical idea about breaking down the classroom walls and plugging learning directly into the real world. 10. Just 10. That number represents a really bold new plan for schools. It's for something called bagless days. The idea is simple but powerful. For 10 days out of the year, students ditch the textbooks and go learn from their community instead. So what are we talking about here? What actually happens on these bagless days? Well, it could be anything from a short internship with a local carpenter or a gardener to visiting local businesses. It's about getting their hands dirty, learning a real craft. And a big part of this is to kind of get rid of that old stigma around manual work. And yeah, it also means bringing in skills for the future, like coding, right from grade 6. So if we're changing what we teach so dramatically, it only makes sense that we have to change how we assess it, right? The NEP is totally overhauling the old school report card, moving way beyond just a list of marks. Just look at the difference here. The old report card, it was all about memorization, right? A grade from your teacher and a rank. The new 360-degree card is all about core skills. But the real game changer, look at who's doing the assessing. You, the teacher, yeah, but also their classmates and even the students themselves. The goal isn't a score anymore. It's a useful map of their strengths and where they can grow.
All right, but I know what you're thinking. What about the big one, the board exams? Well, they're not disappearing, but they are getting a major makeover. They're actually going to be easier, in a way. Not easier to pass, but easier because they're not just about cramming information anymore. They're going to test if you actually understand the concepts.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the students, but the policy makes one thing crystal clear. None of this works without the person at the very center of it all, the teacher. So let's talk about you and what this all means for your career. 50 hours. That's the magic number. That's how much time every single year is going to be dedicated to your professional growth, to what's called continuous professional development. It's all about making sure you have the time to keep learning and stay on top of the latest teaching methods.
And all this training is designed to fuel a massive shift in how we teach. We're moving away from that old chalk and talk method where the teacher just lectures. The new focus is on experiential learning. Basically, you're shifting from being the sage on the stage to the guide on the side, creating experiences where your students learn by doing. And this new way of thinking, it goes all the way to the principal's office. This quote is so powerful because it completely redefines the role. They're not just seen as administrators anymore, managing schedules and paperwork. They're expected to be the lead learner of the entire school. All right, so we've looked at the new structure, the critical mission for early learning, the real-world skills, the new report cards, but at the end of the day, the NEP is just paper. It's a blueprint. The real work, the actual building, that happens with you in your classroom. So the real question, the one that matters most, is for you. With this new blueprint in your hands, what are you going to build?